Back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Consumers have been grappling with rising fuel prices for the past 5 weeks. Since the new year, fuel costs have increased by up to almost 8 pesos. In this report, Stanley Gaheta explains how these affect the prices of some basic commodities.
Eric Albor's family food budget is good enough for a day. No extra for basic commodities that could last for days or even a week.
Naghanap na lang ng mga bultuhan na tumpok-tumpok na tag-100, mga ganun. Pwede na yun, pagkakasya na yun. Kahit sa gas pa lang, sa gasolina, ang taas ng tinaas eh.
Yung asukal po namin, tumaas na mga isang sako, 3K. Sa itlog naman po, meron pong 150, 165, tsaka 170.
Albor is paying more for food as a result of pass-on production and transportation costs from the agriculture sector due to the steady rise in fuel prices.
Pag sinasabi nating petroleum, unang-una doon is fertilizer sagad. So, sa ngayon po, nagdoble na ang presyo ng fertilizer. Sinabawasan na nila yung input ng kanilang fertilizer kasi ganun lang yung kaya ng pera nila.
Supermarkets can't help but also raise prices of basic items like canned goods, infant formula, and adult milk this month because of higher costs from the source.
Ang pagpresyo ng isang produkto is a management decision. By whom? By the manufacturer. Maaring it pushes them to decide, okay, it's time to increase our prices.
Fuel prices have risen since the beginning of the year, and the latest was by almost 75 centavos per liter for gasoline and diesel. But the transport sector is cautious on seeking a fair increase at this time.
Very careful ang piston sa paggamit ng option na yan. Kasi nga, ang tatamaan din mga ordinaryong mga kababayan din natin.
According to the Energy Department, fuel prices keep rising because of uncertainties in the global market, in particular, tensions in Russia and Ukraine and the Middle East. Supply disruption in Turkey due to pipeline explosions and production concerns on the part of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries despite rising demand.
Tumataas ang pangangailangan sa krudo at petroleum products. Tumaas na ang demand, nagkaroon pa ng problema sa supply.
For an oil import-dependent economy, the government continues to monitor global prices and tries to mitigate their impact on consumers like Eric Albor.
Napaka-volatile ng prices sa petroleum product. Maaring bumaba kagad, hindi mo naman kagad mabawi kagad yung tinaas mo.
The Energy Department says global oil demand will remain high as economies reopen and recover from the effects of the pandemic. Stanley Gahete, CNN Philippines.
As the country eases pandemic restrictions, the government is also relaxing rules for foreign investors. A proposed law allowing full foreign ownership of businesses now up for the president's approval. Senior correspondent Lois Calderon explains what that will mean for ordinary Filipinos.
A game changer for foreign investors. The Philippines has rewritten economic rules by opening up telecommunications, airlines, and railways to foreign ownership 100%. The bill amending the Public Service Act is about to become a law, with President Duterte's signature set to seal it. For decades, foreigners can only own up to 40% in those industries. That turned off big foreign names back when the Philippines was in search for a third telco player. Let us hear Lars Wittig, president of the European Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines.
These companies, we expect to return here. So now we say yes to billions, we say yes to Elon Musk, we say yes to the latest state of the art.
Europeans look interested in transport infrastructure too.
We can all compete on the same terms for domestic freight, domestic travel, and that will only be for the better of the Filipinos, for logistics. We expect foreign direct investments to maybe go into a double-digit billion-dollar level.
Lawmaker Joey Salceda expects an increase of up to 300 billion pesos in foreign direct investments over the next 5 years. Yet amid the cheers, there were jeers too. Critics and militant groups Gabriela and InfraWatch attacked the redefinition of public utilities as unconstitutional. Still, lawmakers put a safeguard to protect national security and sovereignty. Foreign state-owned enterprises are prohibited from owning capital in any public service classified as public utility or critical infrastructure. State-owned China Telecoms owns 40% of third telco player Dito Telecommunity. Dito says the Beijing-owned telco will keep it that way.
So we're still studying it. For telco, kailangan mo ng malaking pera talaga. And if the local market cannot provide that money, then foreign investors really are needed. No? The 40% stake ng Chinatel, that's unimpaired.
Lifting foreign ownership limits is a game changer, not only for business. Those who support it hope it will translate to cheaper airfare, train tickets, shipping costs, and faster internet. For when there's greater competition, it's the consumer who wins. Lois Calderon, CNN, Philippines.
A relief for employees as lawmakers seek to prohibit working beyond 8 or 12 hours. Calamba City Representative Joaquin Chipeco filed the Workers' Rest Bill, which will apply to those even working from home. Under the measure, employers will not be allowed to call, email, or message their employees during rest hours. Corresponding fines will be imposed on violators. Chipeco's bill is the counterpart of Senator Francis Tolentino's proposed measure. Workers share their sentiment on the proposed law.
Suportado ko yun na hindi na pwede dapat aguluhin. Halimbawa, pag nasa bahay na yung empleyado, tapos kailangan magaganto for emergency kasi kulang yung empleyado. Feeling ko hindi dapat gawin yon kasi rights namin na magpahinga na.
Depende yun po sa sitwasyon kung kinakailangan tapusin yung dapat tapusin ngayong araw. Pwede naman po.
The Labor Department says it supports any proposal that will benefit the welfare of workers, but the department is apprehensive about penalizing employers. For the first time, presidential aspirants will share the same platform to discuss their plans for the country in detail. But as Anjo Alimario tells us, one hopeful declined to attend.
6 presidential aspirants have been invited to the Panata sa Bayan, the 2022 Presidential Candidates Forum of the Kapisanan ng mga Broadcaster ng Pilipinas. Vice President Leni Robredo, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, Senators Manny Pacquiao and Panfilo Lacson, and Labor leader Caliori de Guzman are attending. Former Senator Bongbong Marcos, however, says he's not joining. His reason, conflict of schedule. As early as January 19, Marcos had already declined.
Pero ang nakasulat kasi nakalagay doon ay ang prior commitments niya currently, ang nakalagay, may word na currently ma-recall ko sa sulat. His prior commitments have not cleared up yet, no? Kaya we were still hopeful na, baka may mga changes.
This isn't the first time Marcos declined to attend a presidential forum or interview. He turned down GMA's Jessica Soho presidential interviews, citing the host's alleged bias. On Wednesday, Robredo faced DCRH Bakit Ikaw presidential job interview for more than 2 hours, despite having an openly critical panel member. There, she was asked if it's possible for her and Marcos to unite.
Pag basta lang natin tinanggap yung ganon, dahil lang sa unification, ano yung mensaheng binibigay natin sa tao? Na okay lang? Na okay lang yung lahat ng mga abuses na ginawa in the past? Na okay lang yung korupsyon? Na okay lang na convicted ka of a crime na hindi mo pa napapanagutan? Yung conviction mo ay ino-offer mo ulit yung sarili mo?
Robredo was in Pampanga on Thursday to turn over antigen test kits in Guagua and Angeles. Meanwhile, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno is urging Filipinos to rekindle the patriotism and love of country of our World War II heroes and emulate their trait as we fight COVID-19. Senator Panfilo Lacson, on the other hand, is offering 2 possible solutions to mitigate the oil price increases. One is to amend the provision on fuel excise tax under the train law. The other is to push for a joint oil exploration in the West Philippine Sea.
Sa akin, maganda rin yung, sa ngayon, ang alam ko, pumapagi yung China doon sa 60-40, meaning 40% lang sila. Sa akin, symbolic yun. Ba't hindi natin papayagan? Pagka sila sumang-ayon doon sa ating saligang batas na sa joint exploration, yung joint endeavor, no? At 60-40, ibig sabihin, sa akin, subliminally, kinikilala nila sa atin yun.
Anjo Alimario, CNN Philippines.
Calio de Guzman slams Marcos for declining to attend the KBP forum. For the labor leader, Marcos's refusal to participate in the event shows he'll also back out when faced with crisis if he wins the presidency. The Commission on Elections says non-participation in forums and debates is not a red flag for the poll body, but for COMELEC spokesperson James Jimenez, skipping these events is a red flag for voters and a missed opportunity to know more about the country's aspiring leaders.
I think it's very important that in recognition of how important it is to the people, that we acknowledge that they failed to show up, right? It's not going to be glossed over. It's not going to be ignored. They're going to have a podium right there with their name on it and no face above it. So that's their lookout.
Catch the KBP Presidential Forum tomorrow at 9 in the morning, moderated by our senior anchor Rico Hizon and ABS-CBN's Karen Davila. The forum will be simulcast on our news channel, ABS-CBN, TV5, and over 300 broadcast stations nationwide. Our senior anchor, Pinky Webb, will also host a pre-forum special at 8:30 in the morning, only here on CNN Philippines. Various groups urge President Duterte to disclose his short list of possible replacements for 3 COMELEC officials who retired this week. Trisha Terada filed this report.
With just 3 months to go before the May elections, President Duterte has yet to pick replacements for retired COMELEC Chairman Sherif Abbas and Commissioners Rowena Guanzon and Antonio Co. Jr. Participate a non-partisan coalition of academe, civil society organizations, youth groups, and sectoral leaders wants the president to disclose the shortlist and specific standards he will be using to select the next officials of the poll body. They say the public has the right to know.
Now, if we select, commissioners who are more of the same right now, insofar as their tie-ups to Duterte, whether as schoolmates, fraternity brothers, or region mates or city mates, that would be very, very problematic.
Political analyst Dr. Jean Franco says these are valid anxieties and concerns in light of the 2005 Hello Garci scandal, where a sitting president and a COMELEC official allegedly rigged poll results. Franco also says it's crucial for President Duterte to be seen as objective, as his daughter is vying for the second highest post.
If the president has a hand in filling all these vacancies, then syempre hindi maaalis na mag-alala at magkaroon ng suspension yung mga tao. So the COMELEC and even the president himself should be transparent.
The COMELEC will soon be composed of 7 members, all handpicked by President Duterte. Same scenario in 2016 when all commissioners were appointed by then President Noynoy Aquino. As the polls near, election watchdogs and organizations call on Mr. Duterte to select commissioners with integrity, proven competence, and independent.
We need independent-minded people in the COMELEC, and to appoint, 3 commissioners right now would be very, very crucial to the integrity of our elections.
Our democracy is actually at stake in this selection. Kung walang tiwala yung mga tao dito sa tatlong ito, di malulusaw din yung tiwala dun sa resulta at yung conduct ng buong May 2022 election.
Franco and Arrow say the president must pick candidates outside his circle to send a clear message that his choice was based solely on their integrity and experience. Trisha Terada, CNN Philippines.
Straight ahead, BTS member Jimin gives an update on his health after testing positive for COVID-19 and undergoing surgery. And we take a look at how the national team fared against South Korea in its AFC Asian Cup semifinal match. Stay tuned to CNN Philippines. Welcome back to CNN Philippines. The Philippine women's football team suffers a loss to South Korea in the AFC Asian Cup with a score of 0-2. The Korean team went in strong, scoring 2 goals just in the first half. In its previous match, the Philippines notably made a historic win. It qualified for the Football World Cup for the first time ever after beating Chinese Taipei. Also advancing to the World Tournament are Asian quarterfinals victors China, Japan, and South Korea. And before we go, Jimin of BTS delivering some good news to fans yesterday, assuring them he is recovering well after catching COVID-19 and undergoing operation. The K-pop idol posted an update on web platform Weverse, saying he may be able to leave the hospital soon. BTS management company announced earlier this week that Jimin was diagnosed with the virus on Sunday and had to undergo surgery for acute appendicitis the next day. And that is it for tonight. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program is brought to you by
Liabilities and net worth, or SALN, may seem like an ordinary piece of paper, but a president and 2 chief justices removed from office because of it. By law, all public officials and employees are required to file their SALNs containing information on their assets such as cash and properties, liabilities, business interests, financial connections, and relatives in government. These can be used to expose corruption, conflicts of interest, and unexplained wealth of those in government. But up to this day, President Rodrigo Duterte has yet to release his SALN beginning 2018. And now, Bongbong Marcos, former senator who seeks to replace Duterte, under fire for saying he will not publicize his SALN if or when elected president. We'll take a closer look at the role of SALNs in good governance tonight. Good evening. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Welcome to your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. Our guests tonight, joining us via Zoom, Attorney Christian Monsod, one of the framers of the 1987 Constitution, and senatorial aspirant, lawyer, attorney Chel Diokno. Let's begin with you, Attorney Monsod, as a framer of the 1987 Constitution, a member of the 1986 Constitutional Commission. What does the Constitution say about SALNs? I know you might feel like you're sounding like a broken record, but I think it's very good to remind people what the Constitution says about SALNs. Sir, Attorney Monsod.
Yes, well, under Article 11 on accountability of public officers, that is Section
Attorney
17.
Monsod?
Yes. Sorry, can you hear me?
Attorney Monsod?
Yes. Yes. Can you hear me? I'm not muted anymore. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Hi, sir. Yes, now I can hear you, sir. So I hope you heard my question, po, sir.
Yes, I got it. Well, the specific constitutional
Yes,
provision,
go ahead,
of
po.
course, Article 11 and on accountability of public officers, Section 17, which requires public officials and so on to file a declaration of assets, liabilities, and net worth. And also, what's important is the end of that paragraph, which said that the declaration shall be provided to the public and in the manner provided by law. That the law cannot limit the amount of information, but just prescribe the manner of disclosure. So that's the specific provision on sound in the Constitution. But I'd like to add that there are several provisions that are important or related to this. Number one, sovereignty belongs to the people and all government authority comes from them. What does that mean? It means that the people are the principals and public officials are their agents, and the principals have a right to know the qualifications and wealth and so on of their agents. Also, in Article 11, public office is a public trust. Also, Section 7, that says that the ombudsman is the protector of the people. The ombudsman is not the protector of public officials against the public. On the contrary, it is the job of the ombudsman to be the protector of the people. Okay, so that's the premises that we can discuss what this is all about.
Attorney Monsod, I started the show by asking you to repeat, like I said, like a broken record, because it's so important that we all remember what the Constitution says about the SALN. I have a few follow-up questions, but before we go to that, I wanted to ask Attorney Chel Diokno naman, who's also joining us via Zoom, what the law, for example, RA 6713, says about SALN. Again, Attorney Chel, I know you know this by heart, the way Attorney Chris Monsod knows the Constitution by heart also. But again, very good to remind people what the law says about SALNs.
Thank you, Pia, and good evening. Good evening to all the viewers. The law is very clear. Republic Act 6713 both imposes an obligation on public officials and employees to file their statement of assets and liabilities and net worth, and as well provides that the public has a right to know the SALNs. And when you look at the other sections of the law, it also is clear that every citizen has access to the SALN, provided they just pay a minimum modest fee. And that's really the only condition imposed by the law itself. So I really find it, I cannot understand why there are officials who have made this mandatory ministerial duty into a discretionary type of thing, when it's obviously not that way as contemplated by the law.
Okay, so now the follow-up questions, and it's good that we heard you first, you also, Attorney Chel. So both of you saying the public has the right to know. And as Attorney Chel was mentioned the word discretionary, because what's happening is that we have laws or rules or guidelines from different offices, including the Office of the Ombudsman, about when these can be released. Who can apply for a copy of SALN of so-and-so, what should be submitted. Parang ang daming mga requirements. Was it meant to be that way? Attorney Monsod, earlier you also said, di ba, yung public has the right to know. Was it really meant to be that way na kailangan may mga, well, hurdles before we get a copy of any official's SALN? Attorney Chris Monsod?
No, well, it's mandatory. It's a constitutional provision after all. It's not just a law. It's a constitutional provision. And the purpose of it is accountability. Like, you have to have to file a SAM at the beginning of your term, and you have to file a SAM at the end of your term. And then the information to the public is, if there is a questionable increase in your wealth, for example, they have a right to know what happened, how come that you increase your wealth disproportionately to your compensation as a government official. Because there are also prohibitions on what you can or cannot do as a public official, right? You have to disclose for example, your financial or contractual connections in business or profession and so on. And if I were a public official who was nothing to hide, I would be happy to provide the details in order to set the record straight on my net worth and on my wealth.
Attorney Chel, kanina binanggit niyo yung termino na discretionary. And for example, we remember very clearly how late last year, Ombudsman Martires was talking about how there should be several guidelines for releasing the presidents and the VPs SALN, and he was saying, why are people so interested in it? Yung Constitution as the portion of that read by Attorney Chris Monsod and the law, RA 6713, as you reminded us, no, was it meant to be, para bang, pwede bang i-amend? Of course, laws can be amended, Constitution can be amended, pero, pwede ba nating galawin yan para, para mabago yung mga provisions on the SALN, for example, Attorney Chel, or hindi dapat?
The law is the law until it's amended. It must be followed by everyone, especially by our public officials. And if you look at the relevant provisions of 6713, they really provide for two rights for the public. Number one is access. Any citizen can have access at any reasonable time of the day. There's no even need to pay any fee, and there's no condition imposed by the law. If you want to get a copy of the SALN, then you must pay a fee. And that's pretty much the only condition imposed by the law. So if there are officials who are claiming that there must be so many different requirements that are not in the law, my view is that that's ultra-vires, that is exceeding what's in the law, and they cannot do that. If they want to do it, then they should amend the law first. They cannot impose their discretion when the law does not allow discretion, and in fact provides that the duty is ministerial.
Well, we've had top government officials, falling, or the acts falling on top government officials because of this. And President Duterte has said that he didn't want to release the SALN beginning 2018. Bongbong Marcos, a presidential candidate for the May election, saying he's not going to release it if or when he becomes or is elected president. All these questions hanging until we come back after this break. Politics as usual. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is Politics as Usual. I'm Pia Ontiveros. A Chief Justice and incumbent President removed or medyo sumabit dahil sa issue ng Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth ng SALN. That is what we're talking about tonight with Attorney Chel Diokno and Attorney Christian Monsod. President Duterte has said before that he will not release his SALN beginning 2018. In 2017, what we know is that 28.5 million ang kanyang net worth. What is the remedy? Is there a remedy for this or wala? Attorney Christian Monsod, sir.
Well, what is to me a matter of concern is that it seems that all the government agencies mentioned in the Constitution whose SALN should be disclosed to the public are making rules on the content of the SALN, right? They'll just give a summary of assets, liabilities, and net worth, and so on, and who can ask for a copy. The law, the legislature can provide the manner, but they cannot provide limitations on the content, correct? To me, it's a constitutional issue. Unfortunately, I think even the Supreme Court engages in that, in which they said that in which they would release only summaries of assets, liabilities, and net worth. And it's the Constitution, the Supreme Court, that has to interpret the Constitution.
Yeah. Well, so if President Duterte says, no, I'm not going to release my SALN, what is the remedy here? Can he be compelled? Who will compel him to release his SALN? Because, even if we say the public has the right to know, and then he says, no, I'm not going to release it, paano na?
That's Supreme Court. Ultimately.
So kailangan umakyat pa sa Supreme Court para humingi ng SALN, which is already provided for in the Constitution and also provided for by law.
No, at saka yung specific officers. That's the one I'm saying that it's disappointing that the specific officers that are mentioned in the Constitution are making up their own instructions or conditions on the content. Manner, yes, but not content.
Well, Senator Bongbong Marcos now saying that if or when elected president, he's not going to be releasing, he's not inclined to release his SALN dahil pwedeng gamitin laban sa kanya. And that's paraphrasing him. How do you view that now, Attorney Monsod?
Well, I think he's wrong. And I think it's about time that we reviewed, the agencies of government review their own instructions or conditions and so on, because this is the constitutional provision is not being implemented properly by, I'm sorry, unfortunately, by almost all, if not all, of the government agencies that are tasked to do the job.
Attorney Chel Diokno, of course, you are a senatorial candidate on the slate of another presidential candidate, Vice President Leni Robredo. But what were your thoughts when you heard Bongbong Marcos say this, that he is not inclined to release his SALN if or when elected president?
Well, I thought no one is supposed to be above the law, and I thought we're supposed to have the same standard of justice for everyone. What the statement of Mr. Marcos is really a reflection of how we have a double standard in our country, where ordinary government officials have to file their SALNs. They get charged and even convicted or removed from the service if they don't, while those who are in high government posts apparently can get away with it. And that is really why we have to do something about justice in our country. We have to find a way to strengthen it and to strengthen accountability.
So what can we do? When you say we have to find a way to strengthen accountability, what is that way? What exactly do we need to do?
Well, first of all, what remedies are available? It may be possible to file a petition for mandamus against the statutory custodian of the SALN for them to release the SALN as required by Republic Act 6713. That could be filed in any of the courts that have jurisdiction over mandamus. Other than that, if they are impeachable officials, they could also be subjected to impeachment, but we know that that's really a political exercise. In terms of legislation, it is possible to strengthen the citizens' right of access by amending Republic Act 6713 to give it more teeth, to make sure that it's very clear that the duty is ministerial and that any official who blocks the release of SALN should be penalized severely. Because, after all, we are just talking about making sure that government officials do not amass ill-gotten wealth. The purpose of a SALN is very clear. The public wants to know what you have in terms of your assets, liabilities, and net worth, and every year thereafter we can compare. If you declared only, say, 10 million today and next year you declared 50 million, then the public has a right to know where did you get that other money. And that really is very important to all of us, because the money of the government is not theirs. It belongs to the people.
And of course, we are presuming that everyone who files a SALN is telling the truth, not truthful yung laman ng SALN, right? I mean, so hindi lang pag-file ng SALN, the act of filing it, but tulad
are the heart of our democracy. That's in fact the reason why we kicked out the dictatorship. And that's why it's very clear in our constitution and in the laws that have been passed that we should have transparency and accountability. That's precisely the purpose of Republic Act 6713, the Code of Conduct of Public Officials and Employees, to ensure that our government officials don't hide their assets and that they are true to their duty and obligation to really be honest and not corrupt, and that they will just serve the people rather than being served by the people. That's why, to me, it's really sad, and I'm really determined to make sure that laws like Republic Act 6713 are given more teeth, and that we can restore the virtues of transparency and accountability to our government.
Attorney Monsod, your final words?
Yes, well, I think we've said it all. It's a public office, it's a public trust. And President Duterte is a very bad example of a president who refuses to abide by the Constitution. He filed up to 2017 and then he just stopped, didn't do it. And it is very disappointing. And I think really, you know, when the ombudsman, who is supposed to be the protector of the people, is protecting people like Duterte from following the Constitution. There's something wrong with the office of the ombudsman when it does that. And Marcos Jr., who aspires to the presidency, seems to aspire also for what Duterte is doing, because he refuses to disclose the content of his assets and his liabilities and wealth. Well, I think the people should speak and insist that everybody must comply with the law and nobody is above the law, particularly a candidate and a candidate for president and an incumbent president.
Attorney Christian Monsod and Attorney Chel Diokno, thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us tonight on the show. And by the way, we did extend an invitation to a representative of Senator Marcos to join the show. We have been told before, don't talk politics at the dinner table or at a family reunion or in Viber groups and risk digital warfare. But we can talk about it here on this show, your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. I'm Pia Ontiveros. See you back here next Tuesday, 8:30 p.m.